Welcome back. We've been talking about depression this week and natural strategies to help and how to know when you need to get help. But in this episode, we're going to actually answer your questions. It's really important to us when you send your questions. It's how we get our material. It's how we communicate with you and stay connected. And we just love to do that. So if you would, please write down at the end of this episode something you learned and take a screenshot of it. Send it to us and hashtag Brain Warriors Way podcast. And if you go to brainwarriorswaypodcast.com and leave us a question or comment or a review, would be awesome. We will read those. If we read yours, it enters you into a drawing to get one of our books, either The End of Mental Illness or the Brain Warriors Way cookbook.
Great. So we have questions.
Oh, wait, before you start, I want to read one. This is just a really good review. This is what I mean.
This is an antidepressant.
Yes, so this is our antidepressant. So this is from Lynn's031, the best. I've read so many of Dr. Amen and Tana's books. They're constantly putting out excellent research-based content. I've changed many of my daily habits based on their research and guidance. It's actually changed my life! ! I love, all caps, this podcast and look forward to the weekly episodes. Proud to say I'm a brain warrior. Thank you, Dr. Amen and Tana. I know this is selfish that we do this, but it's our dopamine. We're talking about antidepressant strategies, and this is ours. So,
question number 1. I was hit in the head by a shot put. Ouch. As a child. Could that have affected me long term? You bet. You know, lots of us had accidents when we were young or had head injuries. They don't all stick around. But if you've noticed you have ADD or you have depression that doesn't respond to simple things, that could have a lasting imprint on your brain. If you ask me, hey, Daniel, single most important thing you've learned from almost 170,000 scans, mild traumatic brain injury ruins people's lives. And very few people know about it because very few people ever look at their brain.
I have to read this one just because it's so personal at the moment. Could you discuss decision fatigue? I feel so worn out after work. Do you remember me yesterday? I was just laying on the bed at like 8 o'clock and I couldn't even talk. I was so tired between trying to get these kids' school figured out, which a lot of people are struggling with right now. 3 of them, schools can't make up their mind in my area. They literally have changed their mind like I don't even know how many times for all 3 of them. Trying to get the house done for the PBS show because we can't have a live audience and the house is, there were 100 decisions. Like I had so many people reaching for me at the same time, finishing the book, interviewing people, the PBS show. I literally thought I was going to lose my mind by the end of the day because I couldn't keep up with how many things people were asking me to do. And my poor assistant is going through the same thing. She was so exhausted because there was just so much happening. And I was just, I literally like spread out on the bed.
So what's the answer? They want to know.
GABA. For me, it was GABA. I literally told everybody, no more questions. I closed the door and I took GABA and then you came in, but it's not fair because I have you. So you came in and you're like, what's wrong, honey? And then we just sort of slowly unwound it, but not everybody has you. But they have the podcast. So tell people about the podcast. It was just awful. So I empathize. So let's talk about what they can do besides GABA. It's calming. That's why.
So no. And this is why you shouldn't do 400 emails at once.
Especially not at bedtime.
Because you get decision fatigue. So pretty soon for the first 10, you answer them thoughtfully. And then you just go, no, no, no. Because when you have decision fatigue, like if I said, hey, want to cuddle? You go, no.
Right.
Because your
so
brain
tired.
is empty, which is why sleeping, eating right, exercising, taking time for yourself. When you take time to meditate, to breathe, to work out, you're just like the easiest person on the planet for me. And when you don't, because the busyness overwhelms you, then you suffer and everyone who loves you suffers.
But so what are some strategies for that? So for me, GABA and having you and working out.
Are you farming me out?
I am. Farming is a good word. I would have used a different word, but yeah.
All right. So how you deal with decision fatigue is actually the next question. Tips for a healthier brain.
Mm-hmm.
go through your day and ask yourself, is this good for my brain or bad for it? Positivity bias training. We're talking about depression this week. Start your day with today is going to be a great day. What went well today before you go to bed? Take your supplements, multiple vitamin, fish oil, brain boost. Really nourish your brain, and just know every hour you should probably take a 10-minute break. So you don't have hard decision fatigue, right? In a pandemic and the ICU is overwhelmed. It's hard, but it's more important then to eat right and sleep than, people get off work and they go drinking and they don't sleep and they come back to work and their tank is not full.
Right, and that's a good point, because I remember being in the trauma unit and having that. One thing I want to point out here, I'm not going to lie. It was very tempting to just have a glass of wine. I was so tempted because it's just one of those days where you're just like, I can't take any more. And you just want to relax. But here's why I didn't. I took GABA instead because I knew today was going to be just as busy. And if I did that, I was going to be tired today and unable to make decisions quickly and as effectively. And so the GABA really helped me sleep well. It didn't interrupt my sleep. And I woke up refreshed as opposed to waking up kind of foggy. So be careful about the decision you make in that moment.
And I knew, because I saw you stressed, that I should go to a helpful place rather than a
but you're
needy
awesome.
place.
Not everybody's that awesome. I'm lucky.
What do you think of EMDR?
Oh, my, life-changing. And I can't really figure out why.
EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It's a specific treatment for trauma. It's very effective. It's research-based. And there's also another similar technique called havening. So when you bring up a trauma, so if I have a hard interaction with the patient, and that bothers me because I want to have a good interaction with the patient. So I actually bring it up and I feel it and just make these little tiny circles with your hands. It actually sends signals to your brain to settle down. So don't avoid the trauma. Don't get drunk with the trauma. And you can look at it online at amenclinics.com. Our latest blog was on havening. You can either stroke down on your face, so it's alternate hemisphere stimulation, or my favorite one, stroking down from shoulders down to your forearms.
I love it. And so, my new book, I'm actually writing about my experience when I started EMDR. And it didn't make any sense. Your first gift to me, which is really weird gift to give someone 10 sessions of therapy, which made me feel really messed up. But I was messed up. But anyway. But I didn't know.
I'm not sure it was the first gift.
I didn't know. It was one of the
gifts.
first gifts. I didn't know what EMDR was. But so I've studied on what EMDR is because I was really against, at the time, I was against therapy. Now I'm not at all. But I didn't want to hear psychobabble and blah, blah, blah. And so when you got me EMDR, I was really trying to understand. I went in for a couple sessions and I'm like, whoa, I don't understand why this is working. It really didn't make sense to me. They say it's because the eye movement, going back and forth between the two hemispheres, keeps you present while you're focusing on a traumatic event from the past. And then you slowly it lessens over time. Each time you think about it, it lessens. It also connects it to what was really happening in the past. But it keeps you present so you don't go backwards.
No, that's not how I would think about it. And I've thought about this a lot. What's happening is the trauma got stuck in your head. And so it's always there. It's like the past is infecting the future. When you bring up the trauma and then do this alternate hemisphere stimulation, what it's doing is it's integrating the left and right sides of the brain. And so the trauma goes up, but then it goes away. And that's the beautiful part. So many of those triggers that got stuck in your brain, they would just resurface. And they can cause anxiety, panic, nightmares, flashbacks. And doing this process, it helps your emotional brain to settle down. And there's this great study where they did this alternate hemisphere stimulation, and they found it calmed the amygdala, the fear center in the brain, and it activated the prefrontal cortex, which is the brain's brake. And it could keep a lid, if you will, on the trauma.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So,
whatever it works.
Whatever works. Does post-concussion syndrome ever get better, and how? You have to put your brain in a healing environment. It's so critical. I did the big NFL study at a time when the NFL was having trouble with the truth about traumatic brain injury in football. And 80% of our players got better. We put them on a brain healthy diet, Brain Warriors Way cookbook, multiple vitamin with high doses of B vitamins, high dose omega-3 fatty acids, and a brain boost that works in multiple ways. And that combination, which I later put into Brain and Body Power Max, was helpful for 80% of our
And then for some
patients.
People, hyperbaric oxygen really, really helps them, right?
Really helpful. And I'm just a huge fan of hyperbaric oxygen. Well, we hope this is helpful. Please send us your comments, questions, reviews, leave them on brainwarriorswaypodcast.com. If you leave us a comment, question, or a review, we'll enter you into a drawing to win one of our books. Also, what'd you learn in this podcast? Write it down. Post it on any of your social media sites. And we'd just be so grateful if you hashtag Brain Warriors Way podcast.
If you're enjoying the Brain Warriors Way podcast, please don't forget to subscribe so you'll always know when there's a new episode. And while you're at it, feel free to give us a review or 5-star rating, as that helps others find the podcast.
If you're considering coming to Amen Clinics or trying some of the brain healthy supplements from BrainMD, you can use the code podcast10 to get a 10% discount on a full evaluation at amenclinics.com or a 10% discount on all supplements at brainmdhealth.com. For more information, give us a call at 855-978-1363.